I transmigrated into the son of City A's richest man. Coincidentally, the male lead intern and I happened to share the same birthday. Yet my fiancée, the female lead, abandoned me. She went to the seaside to celebrate the birthday of an intern. She said, "George, so many people are here to celebrate your birthday. But Makoto has only me. What's there for you to be upset about?" I smiled and didn't argue with her. But I really wanted to see if the next day, when she found out her family had gone bankrupt, she would still stick to that pretty boy without wavering. Chapter 1. I transmigrated into the body of a useless male. Supporting role: George, the son of the richest man in City A. On the very first day I crossed over, it happened to be my birthday. Almost all the young heirs and heiresses of City A had gathered for the celebration. Only my fiancé was nowhere to be seen. Inside the private room, everyone cast curious glances my way. I lounged lazily on the sofa, sipping red wine, my eyes deep and unreadable. Beside me, my friend David clinked glasses with me. He glanced at his watch, frowning. "George, it's your birthday today. Why hasn't your fiancée shown up yet? What's going on with her?" Just then a gasp of surprise rippled through the crowd. Everyone turned to see what was happening. When their eyes returned to me, their expressions had become complicated, some mocking, some sympathetic, and some gloating over my misfortune. David's face darkened as he handed me his phone. On the screen was my fiancée's latest social media post. On the terrace of a seaside villa, she was half kneeling on the ground, personally fastening a $1 million watch onto the wrist of an intern. Their eyes were locked, brimming with intimacy. Beside them stood a massive cake. The caption read, "The best you deserve, the most beautiful scenery, and the finest gift. Happy birthday, may my Makoto always be happy." Damn it, Willow is really something else. "I'm calling her right now." David looked angrier than I felt. It took several attempts before the call went through. On the other end, I could hear strong wind and the sound of waves. "Willow, what the hell is going on between you and that intern?" David's tone was sharp, his face full of anger. Willow frowned audibly, her voice tinged with irritation. "David, are you interrogating me?" David suppressed his anger. "You've been with George for so many years. Don't tell me you don't know today is his birthday?" At his words, Willow's voice faltered for a brief moment. I motioned for David to hand me the phone, which he quickly did. I spoke in an icy tone. "Where are you right now?" Willow recognized my voice, and for a split second her tone wavered. "George, I'm still on a business trip. I can't make it back for now. I'll make it up to you next time for your birthday, huh?" "By business trip, you mean going to the seaside to date and flirt with an intern celebrating his birthday?" I didn't hesitate to cut her off. "What date and flirt? Don't make it sound so nasty." Willow's voice sharpened with irritation. "I've told you before, I've always seen Makoto as a younger brother. He's just started his internship and is under a lot of work pressure. What's wrong with me keeping him company for his birthday?" Then in the background came a pitiful male voice. "Miss Willow, is President Wong upset because you're celebrating my birthday? I know I'm not worthy. Maybe you should just go back. I can spend it alone. Don't worry about me." Willow immediately comforted him. "How could I possibly leave you here all by yourself? If George were even half as considerate as you, I wouldn't be so annoyed with him." Then she turned her icy voice back to me through the phone. "George, can you stop being so unreasonable? It's just a birthday. You have so many people to celebrate with you. Makoto only has me. What's there for you to fuss about? You're the president of Wong Corporation. Is it really necessary to get jealous over an intern? You really are something as expected." The original cowardly George's endless indulgence had emboldened Willow to act so brazenly. I let out a cold laugh. "Willow, have you forgotten who it was that gave the Liu family everything they have today? Since you don't know how to appreciate kindness, don't blame me for being merciless with that." I hung up the phone, my face dark and cold. Chapter 2. Having just transmigrated here, I still hadn't fully sorted out the plot of the original novel. I quickly ran through it again in my mind. The George in the book was nothing more than a tool used to pave the way for the male and female leads' love and careers. He and Willow had been childhood sweethearts. He always granted her every request. After they both graduated from university, The Liu family took the initiative to propose an engagement between the two families, although the Wang family looked down on the Lius. When the old master saw the pleading sincerity in George's eyes, he finally relented. From then on, Liu Corporation began to soar. The original George used every Wang family resource to pave the way for them, from a small workshop on the brink of bankruptcy to a rising star among second-tier wealthy families. As for the male lead, he was a poor student sponsored by the Liu family. The moment he started his internship at Liu Corporation, everything changed. Willow revolved around Makoto day and night. She used George's supplementary credit card to buy him bespoke suits and million-dollar watches. When George and the intern shared the same birthday, she didn't hesitate to abandon her fiancé and go celebrate with the intern instead. Even when George had a severe cold and a fever of 39 degrees Celsius. Lying in the hospital receiving info, she was in a nightclub booth clinking glasses in an intimate toast with Makoto. The video made its way online. The title was blinding: Liu heiress parties all night with her pretty boy lover. George had once believed love could conquer everything. Even after betrayal, even after humiliation, he held on to Willow, convincing himself that marriage would tame her restless heart. And when that day finally came, he poured even more of himself into her: blind devotion, endless forgiveness. But fate can be cruel. What George never imagined was that the woman he loved would be the very one to destroy him. A single car crash, engineered by Willow herself, wiped his parents from this world in an instant. And George was left alive, only to suffer. Torment became his daily companion. Under the cold glow of her venomous eyes, Willow pressed her heel into his flesh, grinding pain into bone. Her words cut deeper than any wound. If you hadn't forced me into this marriage, I would have been with Makoto long ago. Someone like you deserves to rot in hell. Makoto crouched at his side, laughter spilling from his lips like poison. You fool. Willow never loved you. She loved your family's money. The accident that killed your parents? That was us. And now Wang Corporation, it's ours. You are nothing but pathetic. And so, George died, betrayed by the woman he loved and the man he despised. Together, the two villains flourished, living out their twisted fairy tale while his ashes scattered in silence. But destiny wasn't finished with George. Against all odds, he was reborn. And in this new life, he no longer clung to illusions. He burned every trace of the gifts he once gave her, set a silent countdown, and walked away without looking back. When Willow finally realized what she had lost and chased after him, desperate with regret, George turned to her only once. His voice was quiet, steady, and final. Willow, I don't love you anymore. And just like that, the story reset. Only this time, the ending would be his to write. By morning, chaos had already wrapped its claws around the Liu family. The secretary burst into Diego's office, her heels clicking like gunfire against the marble floor, her face pale. Her voice shook as she delivered the blow. Every investor, every partner, had cut ties overnight. The banks followed suit, freezing credit lines and demanding repayment in full. It was a death sentence disguised as paperwork. Diego's hand clamped down on her arm, his knuckles bone white. Say it again, he rasped, refusing to believe. But the truth didn't soften with repetition. It only grew heavier. If investors pulled out mid-project, if the banks pressed lawsuits, the Liu family empire would collapse before sunset. And deep down, he knew why. Without the Wang family's shadow behind them, the Lius were nothing. Another secretary rushed in, breathless, with more bad news. Construction sites across the city had been shut down, branded unsafe by inspectors. The empire he thought untouchable was crumbling brick by brick before his eyes. With a roar, Diego swept a priceless ornament off his desk, shattering it against the floor. The crack echoed like thunder, making both women flinch. "This doesn't make sense," he snarled, veins bulging on his temple. "Who would dare move against us? As long as the Wangs stand with the Liu family, we cannot fall." And yet, his trembling hands betrayed him as he dialed George's number. High above City A, in the glass fortress of Wang Group's headquarters, George sat at his desk, calm and cold, watching the phone light up with Diego's name again and again. Spread across the table were files thick with rot, fraud, tax evasion, corruption. The Liu family had built their fortune on the Wang family's shield, thinking themselves untouchable. But tonight, that shield was gone. It wasn't until the fifth call that George finally answered. Diego's voice cracked with desperation, nearly breaking into sobs. "George, you finally picked up. All of our investors pulled out this morning. Do you know what's going on?" George's reply was like ice. "Is that so? Seems the world reacts quickly when it smells blood." Diego's breath caught. "George, what do you mean?" "I mean," George said flatly, "Wang Group is terminating all cooperation with Liu Corporation. The announcement will be public shortly." The words landed like lightning, splitting Diego open from the inside. Investors fleeing was survivable. Partners leaving could be salvaged. But Wang Group walking away? That was the final nail in the coffin. His lips moved soundlessly, but George had already hung up. The office fell into silence, the sharp beeping of a disconnected line hammering inside Diego's skull. His knees buckled as he collapsed into his chair, ashen and broken. No, impossible. George loves Willow. He would never. But then the truth struck like a blade. The Wang family's favor had always rested on his daughter's engagement. If George had cut ties, then something must have happened between them. And when Diego's men brought him the news that Willow had abandoned George on his birthday to play the devoted lover at an intern seaside party, Diego's rage tore through the office like a storm. Documents flew across the room, his roar shaking the walls. "Unfilial daughter. Do you know what you've done? You've slapped the Wang family across the face. You'll drag us all into the grave." For the first time, his secretaries saw him unmasked, not the polished patriarch, but a man watching his empire burn because of his own blood. With shaking hands, Diego dialed his daughter's number. She answered at once, her voice maddeningly calm. "Dad, why are you so worked up? Did George go crying to you?"
"It was Makoto's birthday. He was all alone.
"I just took him out to have some fun." And with that, Diego finally understood. His own daughter had lit the fire that was about to consume them all. Willow had grown too used to power. After all, it was because of her that the Liu family had climbed to where they stood. At home, even Diego often bent to her will, letting her arrogance run unchecked. And now, when the empire was burning, she still didn't see the flames. Diego's voice thundered down the phone, veins straining at his temples. "Do you even understand what you've done? Because of you, the Wang family has cut ties. You'll destroy us completely." But Willow only laughed, a cold, careless sound. "Oh, please. George has been my puppet since childhood. Call him my simp if you like.
This is just his tantrum, a little game.
Once I coax him, he'll crawl right back. Do you really think he has the guts to go after us?" Diego stared at the phone in disbelief. Outside, investors were fleeing like rats from a sinking ship. Partners were slamming doors shut. The situation was a wildfire raging out of control, yet his daughter dismissed it all as if it were smoke and mirrors. And then, as if to twist the knife, a saccharine male voice floated through the receiver, dripping with false sweetness. "Willow, stop taking calls. The tuna sashimi is amazing. Come on, let me feed you. Ah, good girl." Diego's roar shook the room. "Willow, do you want to drive me into my grave? Do you want to see the Liu family destroyed before your eyes?" But Willow's temper snapped, sharp as glass. "Enough, Dad. You're embarrassing yourself. George is sulking, that's all. You sound less like the head of the Liu family and more like a nagging old man. Stop calling. I'm with Makoto, and you're ruining the mood." And with that, she hung up. No hesitation. No remorse. No matter how many times Diego dialed, the line stayed cold. His vision blurred. Rage and despair tangled inside him until his chest ached. He could not believe he had raised such a foolish, reckless child. The alliance with the Wangs had been the Liu family's crown jewel. And now, because of Willow's vanity, Their dynasty teetered on the edge of collapse, all for the sake of a boy they had once sponsored, a boy who was now flaunted like a prize. With trembling hands, Diego smashed his phone into pieces, the sound sharp as a gunshot in the silence. Pacing the office, his breath came ragged, until suddenly he stilled. A ruthless light cut through his despair. Send men to the seaside villa. Drag them back, immediately. If George isn't calmed, we're finished. But as his orders spread, his world shrank. Old friends who once laughed and drank with him now turned away. Calls went unanswered, or worse, cut short with perfunctory excuses. For the first time, Diego felt the full, crushing weight of the Wang family shadow. And with it came despair so deep it hollowed him out. Meanwhile, in the quiet of Wang Group's headquarters, another storm brewed. George's assistant stepped in, face tense. President Wang, the nursing home called. Makoto's mother, she's been assaulting the staff, stealing valuables. They didn't dare act since Miss Liu arranged for her stay. They're waiting for your approval. George's eyes narrowed. He remembered this from the original story, the scene where his predecessor had swallowed the humiliation, letting Willow do as she pleased.
But he wasn't the old George.
Not anymore. He rose from his chair, his voice calm and cutting. Let's go. I want to see it myself. When they arrived, the sound hit first. Shrieking from behind the door, cruel and sharp. I'm here because President Wang's fiancée put me here. You lowlifes think you can disrespect me? If you don't serve me properly, I'll have every last one of you fired.
Out.
Get out. The door opened, and nurses spilled out, their faces swollen, their eyes wet with tears. Inside, Makoto's mother lounged on her bed, the floor littered with peels and seed shells. One leg draped over the other, she tapped at her phone. Her voice dripped disdain. Son, have you gotten Willow yet? These useless servants look down on me. Tell her to hand this whole place over. Then we'll see who dares treat me like trash again. Makoto's voice crackled through the speaker, low and bitter.
Don't worry, Mom. Just give me time.
I'll get Willow. George? He's nothing but a pathetic pushover. Ito's mother thought she was untouchable. With Makoto at her side and Willow behind her, she dreamed of a future where the Wang fortune was theirs to control. Behind the closed door of her nursing home suite, she schemed openly, boasting about jade bracelets, stolen treasures, and how George would be left with nothing, not even a grave. But what she didn't know was that George was already standing at the door listening. His eyes burned cold as Assistant Ku and the director exchanged furious glances. The moment she demanded water, George gave a single nod, and the door swung open. Her smug smile faltered.
Who are you?
She barked, but George stepped forward, towering over her with calm authority. I'm George, the owner of this nursing home. Her arrogance cracked for a split second before she straightened her back. She spat his name with disdain, bragging that Willow herself had placed her there, warning him to show respect. But George didn't flinch. He simply turned to Director Ning and ordered a full investigation. Evidence gathered. A police report filed.
Panic set in.
Ito's mother raged, cursed, and threatened, but the security team was already on her. Nurses she had once slapped now stood tall, seizing the chance to fight back. Jewelry worth tens of millions spilled from her bags, imperial jade, emeralds, necklaces. Residents stepped forward one by one, pointing at what was theirs. Caught red-handed. No more lies to hide behind. On the other end of her still-open phone line, Makoto's voice trembled with fury. Mom, hold on. I'll find Willow. George, you bastard. You'll pay for this. But George only narrowed his eyes. This was just the beginning. If Makoto thought his mother's downfall was harsh, he hadn't yet seen what awaited him. Outside, as the police dragged Ito's mother away, George rewarded the victims of her cruelty. Lavish gold cards for the residents, compensation for the bullied staff. It was a quiet gesture of justice. But his phone buzzed with a storm of missed calls. Willow. Her messages dripped with entitlement and rage. Defend Makoto's mother. Kneel. Apologize or else. George read them once, and only once. His lips curved into a cold smile as he typed his reply. Sure. Then don't you ever forgive me. At the seaside villa, Willow's hands shook as she saw his words. Anger twisted in her chest. She clutched Makoto's trembling hand and whispered promises, her resentment toward George growing darker with every breath. Beside her, Maria only sneered. I told you, Willow, you've spoiled him too much. That's why he dares to defy you now. And just like that, the battle lines were drawn. Maria's words still hung in the air when Willow snapped. You're right. This time I won't forgive him. Pack your things, we're going back. We're ending this with George. But before they could move, the sharp ring of the villa's doorbell cut through the room. Willow and Maria exchanged a glance. This place was remote, hidden, a vacation home. No one ever came here. Slowly, Willow opened the door. Standing there was the Liu family's butler, flanked by 5 bodyguards, his face cold as stone. Miss, the master ordered me to bring you back today, no matter what. Please come with me. Willow had already planned to return, so she didn't argue. But the way they were herded into the van, it felt like a criminal escort, not a family summons. Her jaw tightened. She sat in silence, fury simmering as the city lights came into view. The butler made a call. His voice was low, firm. Yes, sir. Understood. Then he turned back. Miss, the master says we're going straight to the Wang family's old estate. Willow's eyes narrowed. The anger in her chest only grew darker.
Fine.
I understand. Orange Hill Manor. The largest private estate in City A, George's domain. Diego arrived first, forced to leave his car outside the gates. Nervously, he pressed the bell. Captain Oscar, it's me, Diego. Open the gate. The guards knew him. They always had. But this time their eyes carried only disdain. Oscar, head of security, stood tall, repeating George's orders word for word. Do you have an appointment? No? Then leave. Our young master doesn't meet with stray cats or dogs. Diego's face went pale. Never once had he been treated this way. His voice cracked as he begged. Oscar, it's me. I've always come freely. Never needed an appointment before. Oscar only sneered. Exactly. Before. But things have changed. Diego swallowed his rage, trying not to explode. He needed George's help. Losing his temper here could mean losing everything. Just then, Willow and Maria's car pulled up. She heard every word. Fury exploded in her chest. She stormed forward, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. Oscar, how dare you talk to my father like that? Who gave you the guts? The guard didn't flinch. His gaze swept over her with mocking calm. Miss Liu, everyone in City A knows your family is finished. Do you still think you can strut around here? Willow shook with rage. And who do you think you are? Just a dog the Wang family feeds, and you dare bark at me? Did you forget how much George listens to me? Let me in, or I'll have him break all 4 of your limbs. For a second, Oscar hesitated. If George was only bluffing, if Willow really became mistress of the house, insulting her would be a mistake. To be safe, he called. The reply was swift and merciless. Only Willow, Diego, and Makoto may enter. The rest stay outside. Inside the manor, Diego wasted no time. His words tumbled out in desperation. The Liu Corporation was collapsing, bankruptcy looming over them like a storm. The more he spoke, the tighter Willow's fists clenched. Her nails dug into her palms. To her, George had always been her lapdog, her shadow, the man who never disobeyed. And now he dared to defy her. She spotted him in the courtyard, calm, relaxed, sipping red wine as though none of this mattered. Fury ignited in her. The sharp clack of her heels echoed like gunfire as she stormed toward him. George, you're still in the mood to drink? Do you even realize Makoto's mother is rotting in a cell because of you? Do you know Liu Corporation is collapsing? What exactly are you trying to do? Her finger jabbed at his face, spittle flying with every word. But George didn't flinch. He rose slowly, lifted his hand, and slapped her. The sound cracked across the courtyard. Willow's head whipped to the side, a red mark blooming on her pale cheek. For a moment, she froze. Her voice broke into a scream. You hit me? Even my father never dared. How dare you, George? The man she remembered, the pushover who worshipped her, was gone. In his place stood someone colder, sharper, dangerous. And for the first time, unease coiled in her chest. Diego rushed forward in outrage, only to be stopped by George's bodyguards. You've gone too far, George. She's your fiancée. How can you strike her? Makoto darted to her side, wrapping an arm around her waist. His voice shook with anger. George, this is barbaric. Even if Willow was wrong, how could you raise a hand against her? But Willow's fury was burning too bright to hear reason. She pointed at George, her face twisted in rage. I'm truly angry this time. Kneel. Kneel and apologize, or don't ever expect me to forgive you. George laughed. Not with amusement, but with sheer, searing anger. Even now, she didn't understand. Willow had always loved the sight of people kneeling. She thought it made her powerful. But tonight, George decided to give her a taste of her own medicine. With a single order, Oscar's eyes lit up, and the guards descended. In moments, Willow, Makoto, and Diego were forced to the ground. Willow thrashed, screaming George's name. Diego barked about family ties. And Makoto, his cheek pressed against the cold stone, could only tremble as he whispered for Willow to save him. Oscar didn't hesitate. His hand cracked across Makoto's face, swelling it instantly, blood dripping down. One slap became 2, then 10, then 100. The sound of flesh against flesh echoed through the manor like gunshots. By the time it ended, the three of them looked less like people, more like broken animals. For the first time, Willow's arrogance crumbled. Fear coiled inside her chest. She fell to her knees, clutching at George's leg, sobbing promises that she'd obey him, that there was nothing between her and Makoto, that she was his and his alone. But George felt nothing. He kicked her aside, tossing a stack of papers into her face. Fraud, evasion, scams. Her father's sins laid bare in black and white. Her blood ran cold as George's voice cut through the silence. If he handed these over, the Liu family was finished. Then Oscar dropped a baseball bat at her feet. George's meaning was clear. If she wanted her family spared, she'd have to prove herself. Willow's hands shook. Makoto begged her not to give in. Diego roared that she was hesitating, that this boy she clung to mattered more than her blood. And for a moment, she stood frozen, torn between them. But then her eyes hardened. The warmth she once held for Makoto vanished, replaced by venom. If not for him, she thought bitterly, I'd already be Mrs. Wong. If not for him, my family wouldn't be crumbling. Makoto saw it in her gaze. His soul shattered even before the bat fell. The crack of bone echoed like thunder. His scream tore through the night, raw and animal. She didn't stop. Another swing. Another crack. And finally, his dignity, his future, shattered in one brutal strike. He collapsed unconscious, his dreams bleeding out onto the floor. Because in their world, love was worthless. Power was everything. And Willow loved herself more than she ever loved him. Blood on her hands, she turned back to George, kneeling once more with a twisted smile. She swore she had only ever loved him, begged for another chance. George didn't even blink. He poured his wine over her head, his voice like ice. She was guilty too. Every word, every blow, every fraud, it was all recorded. If he handed her to the police, she'd rot in prison for years. The red wine ran down her face like blood. Her smile died, leaving only terror. But George was done. Go to Africa, he told her coldly. Lose yourself in the grasslands. And never come back. Because if you do, you already know the consequences. Oscar didn't wait for me to repeat myself. With a cold nod, he signaled the guards. Send all 3 of them to Africa. Make sure it's handled properly. Willow's scream tore through the manor. She clawed at the floor, desperate, half mad. No. George, you can't do this to me. She lunged for my leg, but Oscar's boot caught her in the ribs, sending her crashing down. The bodyguards swarmed in, dragging her, Diego, and the broken Makoto away like discarded trash. Her voice was the last to fade, shrill and desperate. "George, I'm your fiancé. You said you'd love me forever. I was wrong. I swear I'll never dare again." But her cries grew faint, swallowed by the night until there was nothing left. I exhaled slowly, turning to Ku. My voice was calm, but the weight behind it was ice-cold. "Maria played her part in this too. You'll handle her family." A flash of steel flickered in Ku's eyes. "Yes, President Wang." When I stepped back into the manor, silence pressed against me. With the original's parents overseas, the house felt hollow, stripped of warmth. What stung more was the reminder of the old George, spineless, desperate to please Willow. He had dismissed the entire estate staff and replaced them with men. A pathetic gesture of loyalty. Not anymore. I summoned the butler, my tone sharper than a blade. "Rebuild the staff. Tea masters, stylists, gardeners, chefs, private doctors, masseuses, cleaners, I want them all. And listen carefully. Every single one must be a woman. Elegant, graceful, with charm and presence. This house will reflect me now." The butler hesitated, then offered me a sly smile, almost conspiratorial. "Understood, young master. I'll make sure you're satisfied. Will a 36D be acceptable?"